You know, when you're building a house, you really need to know if you're building in, like, the Wild West, right? Where you can just hammer a few planks together and put up a tent.
Right, it's kind of wing it.
Exactly, just wing it. Or, on the flip side, if you're building in a city with a notoriously strict, heavily enforced zoning board.
Because the environment completely dictates your survival strategy there.
Yeah, and if you bring your little tent to a highly regulated neighborhood, I mean, you might get away with it for a night, but eventually the bulldozers are going to show up and flatten it.
Which is the absolute fastest way to lose an entire investment, assuming the rules are just permanently lax because they used to be.
Totally. And that actually brings us to the topic of today's deep dive, which is the new Vietnam of 2025 and 2026.
It's a fascinating time to look at it, too.
It really is. So we're pulling together insights from all across the spectrum today. We've got political risk reports from the University of Navarra, on-the-ground legal briefings from firms like Anti-Lawyers and G2B, labor analyses from Manpower, and even some immigration updates from local consulting groups.
Really just casting a wide net.
Right. And our mission here is to kind of cut through all the conflicting noise for you. Whether you're managing a global supply chain or looking to invest your own capital, or even just planning an executive relocation, you really need a comprehensive blueprint of this environment.
Because Vietnam is aggressively positioning itself as the ultimate China plus one manufacturing alternative.
Right. But the days of treating it like an emerging market where, rules are just mere suggestions, those days are completely over.
Yeah, the system is formalizing really fast. Enforcement is incredibly strict now. One wrong move could literally cost you your business, your physical assets, or your legal right to remain in the country.
It's high stakes.
Very. And, getting a foothold in a rapidly formalizing market like this, it starts at the most basic level, which is crossing the border legally.
Right.
The baseline rules of the game for foreigners have just radically tightened over the last year. The system is simply no longer looking the other way.
So let's look at how that actually plays out for someone, like flying into Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi. Because there's a massive point of confusion regarding visas that seems to trap a lot of first-time investors.
But absolutely. People constantly mix up the business visa with the work visa.
Yeah, they assume they offer the same basic privileges, right?
Exactly. But the functional difference between the two is enormous. So a business visa, the DN visa, it lasts up to 12 months, but it is strictly for exploratory activities.
Like having meetings and stuff.
Yeah, you can attend meetings, negotiate contracts, survey potential investment sites, things like that, but you cannot, under any circumstances, be directly employed or draw a local salary.
Okay, got it.
Now, a work visa, the LD visa, lasts up to 2 years, but it absolutely requires a pre-approved work permit from the Department of Labor before you even apply.
Before you apply, wow.
Right. And if immigration or labor inspectors find you actually performing daily work, sitting on a company payroll with only a business visa,
I'm guessing that's bad.
the penalties are swift and severe. It very often ends in deportation.
I was actually thinking about this distinction, and having a business visa is essentially like having a backstage VIP pass at a concert,
I like that.
Yeah. You can walk around, shake hands with the band, talk about a record deal maybe, but a work visa means you are actually on the payroll as the lead guitarist.
Exactly.
If you try to plug in your amp and play a set for the crowd with just a backstage pass, security is going to throw you out immediately.
That's a perfect analogy. And the security guards in 2026, they're checking those badges with a level of scrutiny we just haven't seen before.
Really? How so?
Well, it extends directly to how your daily whereabouts are tracked. So temporary residence registration used to be this somewhat loose requirement. Landlords treated it pretty casually.
Right. Like maybe they get to it, maybe they don't.
Yeah. But now it is aggressively enforced. Whoever is hosting you, whether it's a hotel, an apartment landlord, or even just a local friend, they have to register your passport details with the local police within 24 hours of your arrival.
Okay, but what happens when a landlord simply forgets? Because, in a lot of developing markets, the bureaucracy kind of falls on the local citizen, not the visitor, right?
You'd think so, but no. The burden of the fallout lands squarely on the foreigner.
Wait, really? On you?
Yep. The host faces a fine, sure, but you face a systemic block.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you go to a government office to renew your visa or you walk into a bank to open an account, they pull up your profile. And if there is no record of your temporary residence in the national database,
Let me guess. You're stuck.
your paperwork instantly stalls. You're the one left scrambling, trying to track down a landlord who might be, ignoring your calls, begging them for a screenshot of the police portal registration.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It is. Large international hotels automate this, of course. But if you're renting a boutique villa or a small apartment, you have to actively manage your landlord to ensure you literally exist in the system.
And I imagine the penalties for messing up your timeline are severe, too. I saw the fines for overstaying your visa have spiked dramatically, right? Up to like $1,520.
Exactly, $1,520.
Eh.
And it carries the threat of permanent reentry bans.
Hmm.
But beyond the actual dollar amount, the enforcement strategy has entirely shifted.
Oh, what do you mean?
The government is now holding the tourism industry financially liable for the behavior of their clients.
No way.
Yeah. Tour operators now face massive financial penalties, up to 4 million Vietnamese dong, if a client on their roster overstays a visa,
Wow.
and their profit margins are just too thin to absorb those kinds of hits.
So your tour guide is basically forced to act as an ad hoc immigration officer at that point.
Pretty much.
They're going to be double-checking your outbound flights, sending you reminders, practically escorting you to the departure gate just to protect their own livelihood.
Because they view your visa status as a direct threat to their business license. And this strategy of deputizing local businesses, it's being applied to daily life as well.
Oh, like what?
Take the recent total ban on vaping and heated tobacco products that hit on March 1st.
Right, I read about that.
The government didn't just make it illegal for the individual. They attached crippling fines to the venues.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah. If someone is caught vaping in a bar, a nightclub, or a hotel lobby, the venue itself is hit with a fine of 5 to 10 million dong. That could wipe out their revenue for the week.
Right, so the bouncer isn't kicking you out because they care about your lung health. They are physically removing you to protect the bar's cash register.
Exactly. It creates an environment where the local population is highly incentivized to police foreign behavior. The tolerance for infractions is zero.
That's a huge shift.
It really is. And this formalization of daily life, it also extends to taxation. Alcohol taxes are climbing rapidly.
Yeah, up to 65% on strong liquor and beer by 2026, right?
Yep. And there are active plans to push that near 90% by the end of the decade.
Wow. So Vietnam still offers a great quality of life, but the era of impossibly cheap convenience and, unregulated nightlife is definitely fading.
Very much so. And there's also a surprisingly mundane hurdle that investors need to watch out for.
Oh.
The calendar itself is shifting.
Oh, right. The new public holiday on November 24th.
Exactly, bringing their total to 26 paid holidays a year.
So if you have a critical piece of government paperwork or a visa run or a corporate registration scheduled, and it suddenly collides with an unexpectedly closed government office,
your entire timeline can derail. Navigating these bureaucratic timelines is especially critical for long-term planning, too. Yeah, I bet.
Many expats arrive expecting to find a simple retirement visa pathway, similar to what you might find in, say, Thailand or the Philippines.
Right, just show some bank statements and you're good.
But that structure simply does not exist in Vietnam. The traditional pathways require family ties, heritage, or significant direct investment.
But there is a new door opening in 2026, right?
Yeah.
Specifically designed for a different tier of expat.
Yes, the 10-year elite visa.
Right.
This is a highly targeted instrument tied to the International Financial Center programs being developed in Ho Chi Minh City and Da Nang.
So who is that for, exactly?
The government wants to pull in top-tier corporate talent, high net worth investors, and specialized experts to establish regional headquarters.
Oh, dear.
If you qualify, it offers up to a decade of residency for the individual and their family, including a potential pathway to permanent residency. But they are only rolling out the red carpet for those bringing significant economic value.
Right. So, okay, assuming you navigate the border, you secure the right visa, and you're ready to actually set up business operations.
Yeah.
The fun part.
Yeah, the really fun part. The sources highlight a massive, almost gravitational temptation for foreign investors who are trying to bypass local ownership restrictions.
Ah, yes, the nominee director.
Exactly. They use a local Vietnamese citizen as a nominee director. The foreigner provides all the capital, puts the local citizen's name on the official incorporation documents, and then tries to control the company from the shadows using private contracts.
Yeah.
The legal briefings we're looking at explicitly call this out as a ticking time bomb.
It is the most dangerous illusion a foreign investor can buy into, honestly.
Why is it so risky?
The core vulnerability is that under Vietnamese corporate law, A nominee director arrangement designed to skirt foreign ownership caps is completely unrecognized.
Oh, so it's not even a legal gray area.
No, not at all. Those private shadow contracts,
Um,
the power of attorney, the loan agreements, the declaration of trust that the foreigner keeps locked in a drawer. The moment a dispute arises and goes to a Vietnamese court, the judge will view those documents as a sham transaction engineered to circumvent the law.
wow.
The court will invalidate them immediately.
Which opens the door for the rogue nominee scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like if the local citizen whose name is on the paperwork suddenly decides they want to keep the factory, they just keep it.
Legally, they own it.
That's terrifying.
They have the absolute statutory power to sell the company's assets, take out massive bank loans using your equipment as collateral, or even liquidate the business entirely.
And you can't do anything.
Nothing. The foreign investor has stripped themselves of all legal recourse by trying to hide their involvement. You lose the entire investment.
It's astonishing that people still try this. But, it's not just a risk for the foreigner. The local citizen acting as the nominee is stepping into a legal minefield as well.
Totally. The enforcement landscape has fundamentally changed due to global anti-money laundering standards.
The AML laws.
Right. Under the new Ultimate Beneficial Owner, or UBO, disclosure rules, the era of corporate anonymity is dead.
So they can see right through it.
Exactly. The government actively traces who is actually funding and controlling the entity. And the local nominee is held personally and criminally liable for all company activities.
Oh, man. So if the shadow company evades taxes or runs afoul of labor laws or commits fraud.
The nominee faces prison time. When the structure collapses, the nominee goes to jail, and the foreign investor faces a total loss of assets and permanent blacklisting.
So if the shadow structures are dead, how does a foreign entity actually build a safe, compliant operation?
The strategy requires total transparency. In sectors that are fully open to international capital, you establish a 100% foreign-owned enterprise.
Straightforward enough. What if it's not fully open?
Where foreign ownership is capped, you must form a legitimate joint venture where a local partner actually contributes verifiable capital and shares the operational risk. Alternatively, for specific limited-term projects, you can register a business cooperation contract, a BCC, which clearly outlines the profit sharing and liabilities without forming a new corporate entity.
But operating a legitimate, fully compliant business brings its own new set of structural headaches, right? Specifically regarding the workforce.
Oh, absolutely. The new social insurance law from July 2025.
Yeah, that law changes the economics of hiring entirely. Because now, even part-time and seasonal workers, basically anyone on a contract of 1 month or more, must participate in the mandatory social insurance system.
Yep. Employees have to contribute 8% of their salary, and employers have to contribute 17.5%.
That sounds like a massive administrative burden.
The burden this places on HR departments is staggering. Managing the frequent headcount changes of a seasonal workforce, processing the insurance registrations, handling the constant reporting it, requires a massive back-office effort.
And if you mess up,
A minor misclassification or a delayed filing can result in compounding daily financial penalties and severe damage to a company's operational reputation.
But wait, making seasonal workers give up 8% of their paycheck feels totally counterproductive, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if the government's goal is to build a social safety net for vulnerable, low-income workers, aren't they just going to demand to be paid under the table to avoid the hit?
Yes.
The sources explicitly note that workers are actually fleeing to the informal cash economy because they literally can't afford that 8% deduction.
Exactly. The law creates a massive paradox for the labor market. It places legitimate businesses in an almost impossible position.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right, because if an employer bows to the workers' demands and pays them in undeclared cash to avoid the deduction, the business exposes itself to tax evasion charges and crippling corporate fines.
But if they strictly enforce the deduction,
They face an immediate labor shortage because the workers simply walk down the street to an off-the-books factory.
wow, so how do modern enterprises survive this?
They're leaning heavily into strategic HR consulting and workforce outsourcing. They have to turn this compliance burden into an operational advantage, building an employer brand that attracts workers who value long-term stability and benefits over immediate cash.
That makes sense.
Mm.
But if navigating corporate structures and labor laws is this fraught, it makes me wonder if physical assets offer any safe harbor.
Real estate.
Yeah. Like, if I want to bypass the corporate headaches, forget the seasonal workers entirely, and just park my capital in a high-end apartment building in Ho Chi Minh City, am I facing the same level of legal illusion?
Unfortunately, yes. The real estate market is equally filled with hidden trapdoors for the uninformed buyer.
Ah, of course it is.
The baseline rules seem straightforward at first glance, like foreigners are legally permitted to buy apartments.
Oh, wait, that's a start.
However, foreign ownership is strictly capped at 30% of the total units in any given commercial residential building.
Only 30%.
Yes, and furthermore, foreign ownership is outright banned in any area deemed a military or national security zone, and those zones are broadly defined and frequently updated.
And even if you clear those hurdles and you successfully buy a unit, you don't actually own it in perpetuity, right? Ownership is capped at a 50-year term.
Exactly. While that term is technically renewable, it changes the fundamental math of the investment.
Because the ultimate goal, the holy grail of Vietnamese real estate, is securing the pink book from the government. That document is your only irrefutable proof of ownership.
Right. And the pursuit of the pink book is where many foreign buyers fall into a massive legal trap.
The 50-year lease trap.
That's the one. Developers, they're eager to access foreign capital, so they've engineered this workaround called the 50-year lease illusion.
How does that work?
When a specific project has not yet been legally cleared for foreign ownership by the government, or if that 30% foreign quota in the building is already full, the developer will offer a 50-year lease agreement, but market it aggressively as a sale.
That is so misleading. It's exactly like leasing a car, but the shady dealership convinces you that you are actually buying it.
That's exactly what it is.
Sure, it feels like yours when you drive it off the lot. You park it in your garage, you wash it, you pay for the maintenance. But when the 50-year lease is up, you have to hand the keys back to the developer.
Yep.
You have absolutely zero equity to show for half a century of payments. You can never resell it on the open property market, and the government will never issue you a pink book because, legally, you are just a long-term renter.
That is the exact reality many expats wake up to when they attempt to liquidate their assets.
Man.
And there's another severe vulnerability involving how the property is actually used.
Like renting it out.
Right. A common strategy is for foreigners to purchase residential apartments with the intent of turning them into lucrative short-term online rentals, essentially running an unofficial Airbnb boutique hotel.
Which people do all over the world.
But under the Vietnamese housing law, utilizing a residential apartment for short-term commercial lodging is strictly prohibited.
Really? Strictly prohibited.
Yes. To do this legally, you must secure separate commercial business licenses, pass rigorous fire safety inspections, and register for specific commercial taxes.
And if you don't?
The authorities will force an immediate suspension of operations and levy heavy administrative fines.
You also have to navigate the banking trap with real estate too, right?
Oh, definitely.
Because you cannot simply wire money from your offshore account directly to a developer's personal bank account. Every single dollar of a property transaction must flow through official, licensed Vietnamese banking channels under your own name.
Yes, and if the money doesn't follow the government's highly regulated path, the transaction is legally invalid.
Leaving you with no property and your capital trapped in the legal gray zone.
Exactly. So stepping back from the granular details, the strict visa enforcement, the crackdown on corporate nominees, the complex real estate traps, we really have to ask why this is all happening now.
Right. Why is Vietnam formalizing its entire economy with such intensity all of a sudden?
To understand the mechanism driving these changes, we have to look at the macroeconomic engine and the profound political shifts occurring at the highest levels of the Communist Party.
Yeah, the political risk report from the University of Navarra paints a really vivid picture of this. They talk about the defining feature of the current political landscape being the blazing furnace.
The anti-corruption campaign.
A massive, sweeping anti-corruption campaign that has completely reshaped how the country operates. I mean, we are seeing high-profile government officials and billionaire local tycoons facing unprecedented prosecutions.
We really are.
But for the foreign investor, the risk isn't necessarily that they will be directly targeted by this campaign, right?
No, they're not the targets.
The real operational risk is that the bureaucracy they rely on has become completely paralyzed by fear.
Right. The paralysis is a direct byproduct of this new culture of ultimate accountability.
How does that actually stall things, though?
Well, the provincial departments that handle permits, land rights, and investment approvals, they operate under a dual subordinate system. They answer to both the local municipal government and the national ministries in Hanoi.
Okay.
Historically, these local officials wielded significant discretionary power, which allowed things to move quickly, often facilitated by informal relationships.
I see.
But today, a mid-level official staring at a complex permit application for a foreign factory is absolutely terrified of making a mistake.
Because they don't want to get thrown into the furnace.
Exactly.
Mm.
The safest personal decision for that official is to not sign the document, to pass it up the chain of command, or to request endless revisions, ensuring they can never be accused of improperly fast-tracking an approval.
So nobody wants to be the one who's stamped approved.
Right, which leads to massive delays in routine project reviews.
But this creates a glaring contradiction, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, Vietnam's entire pitch to the global market right now is, we are the fast, agile, business-friendly alternative to a slowing Chinese economy. But doesn't a massive bureaucratic freeze caused by terrified local officials completely destroy their biggest selling point? If a multinational corporation can't get a permit signed to open a factory, they will just take their capital to India or Mexico.
That's a very fair point. And the government is highly aware of this friction. But they view it as a necessary systemic growing pain.
Like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Kind of. They are prioritizing the long-term stabilization and transparency of the market over short-term speed. The goal is to dismantle the entrenched local cronyism so that institutional capital major pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, multinational conglomerates feel safe deploying billions of dollars.
Ah, I get it. So for the foreign investor on the ground today, it means the old playbook of relying on unofficial fees to bypass red tape is just dead.
Totally dead. You must adopt a highly conservative, structurally sound approach to every single application.
And they are trying to manage this massive internal restructuring while navigating an intense geopolitical squeeze. I mean, Vietnam is targeting a highly ambitious 8% GDP growth rate for 2025.
Which is huge.
Right. They're currently riding the wave of the manufacturing boom. But this success has made them a target. The United States is currently threatening massive reciprocal tariffs, up to 46%, because the U.S. holds a $123.5 billion trade deficit with Vietnam.
And if those tariffs hit, it would be devastating to Vietnam's export-driven economy.
Exactly.
But the leadership recognizes the precarious nature of relying solely on cheap textiles, furniture, and basic electronics assembly.
They know they have to pivot.
Yes. To shield themselves from these geopolitical shocks, they are pivoting aggressively toward high-value, high-tech sectors.
Like semiconductors.
Precisely. They have launched a national initiative to train 50,000 semiconductor engineers by 2030. They are desperate to move up the value chain into integrated circuit design and artificial intelligence.
The real wild card in this pivot, though, is the rare earth sector.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Vietnam is sitting on an estimated 20 million tons of rare earth reserves, which makes them second only to China globally.
It's a massive strategic advantage.
And the crown jewel of this sector is the Dong Pao mine. The government's stated goal is to produce 60,000 tons of rare earth equivalent annually by 2030. But the reality on the ground is complicated, right?
Very complicated. The entire sector is currently stalled because key figures, including the chairman of Vietnam Rare Earth JSE, were actually caught up in the very corruption arrests we were just talking about.
Wow, talk about a bottleneck.
Yeah, the internal delays are frustrating. But the global geopolitical incentive to get those mines operational is simply too powerful.
Other countries want in.
Oh, definitely. Nations like Japan, Australia, and Canada, they view Vietnam's reserves as a matter of national security. They are actively offering massive capital investments and advanced refining technology to help Vietnam bypass these domestic hurdles.
Because the international community desperately needs a viable alternative supply chain to break China's monopoly.
Exactly. China currently dictates roughly 90% of global refining capacity. The world needs Vietnam to succeed here.
But building a high-tech semiconductor and rare earth mining economy requires an incredible amount of raw power. And Vietnam's current energy grid is heavily reliant on coal, which really conflicts with the carbon-neutral demands of the major tech companies they're trying to attract.
It's a huge hurdle. To solve this, they secured a $15.5 billion funding package from the Just Energy Transition Partnership, the JETP.
Okay, $15.5 billion is a lot.
It is, and it's aimed at shifting their grid through liquefied natural gas and renewables. But the harsh reality is that in the immediate short term, They just have to keep burning coal to keep the lights on for all the new manufacturing plants moving in.
Right.
The energy transition perfectly encapsulates the broader challenge. They are attempting to fuel their current explosive growth while simultaneously tearing down and rebuilding the foundational infrastructure required for a greener, formalized future economy. It requires an extraordinary balancing act.
It really does, which I think brings this entirely back to the listener. The era of the Wild West emerging market in Vietnam is just over.
Completely over.
It is formalizing into a highly structured, scrutinized, and regulated environment. Whether you are relocating your family, hiring a team of seasonal workers, or trying to navigate a real estate purchase, success demands total transparency. The system no longer tolerates cut corners.
And the compliance burden has undeniably increased across the board. But, for the investors who are willing to build their foundations legally, transparently, and structurally sound, the potential rewards in this new formalized market are exponentially higher.
Yeah, it's a high barrier, high reward environment now. But I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, based on some of the demographic data buried in that Navarro report.
The demographics data is fascinating.
It really is. We've spent this entire time talking about Vietnam racing to build the infrastructure of a high-tech, developed, high-income nation by 2045. But the data reveals a ticking clock. Their national fertility rate has plummeted to a record low of 1.91. And demographers calculate that their window of opportunity, basically the period where the working age population is at its absolute peak, is going to permanently slam shut by 2039.
That's right around the corner.
Right. By the year 2040, a staggering 21% of the entire population will be over the age of 60.
Wow.
So the real question isn't just whether Vietnam can build the semiconductor fabs, clear the bureaucratic hurdles, and dig the rare earth mines in time. The question is whether, by the time they finish building this incredible economic engine, they will actually have enough young workers left to turn the key and run it.
Because demographics are destiny. It is the ultimate race against a biological clock.
It goes right back to the house analogy we started with. They aren't just strictly enforcing the building codes on every new floor. They are desperately trying to finish the entire skyscraper before the construction crew retires. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the new Vietnam.